Troy Cassar-Daley, winner of 40 golden guitars. What an absolute pleasure it is to talk to you about this album. Now, I didn't think you could break my heart any more than you did with The World Today, but you have with the new album, which is Between the Fires, because it's glorious, moving, and all-encompassing. And you made The World Today after your father died, and you've made Between the Fires in the wake of your mother dying. And on this album, we hear your heartbreak, but we also hear your healing. And I'm wondering if while you were working on it, did it feel like it was healing you?
Oh, look, Sophie, it totally felt like healing. I think music's been an incredible place for me to hide all my life. Since I was a child, with my parents breaking up, losing family members. I've lost some Indigenous family members very early in my life. And when they were the cornerstones of your family, like your grandparents, it was heavy grief for a long, long time. So music was the place to hide.
Mhm.
And it gave me somewhere that I could actually feel like I could get better. And when I was halfway through this project and having, the crew around me at my mum's house,
Mhm.
I felt my heart slowly going like this
Right.
and feeling like I was at least going towards the light instead of feeling like the dark, sad person that I'd been for the 6 months prior.
Mhm. Now, you mentioned recording in your mother's house. The very first time I listened to the album, I've listened to it a few times, the song that really stood out was Dreams. And that was partly because of the bird call at the start and finish of it, and also because of this incredible, growly, powerful way you sing that song. But I was thinking, where did you record those birds? And then I found out you recorded the whole album at your mother's house. So how did you come to make that decision? I know you recorded it in the room you used to jam in as a child. But obviously it's not a recording studio.
Obviously, the engineer, Jordan Power, said to me, first of all, yes, we can record in your mum's old house.
Right.
And he said, and second of all, the best part about that is that it's only going to sound like your mum's house. It's
Right.
not going to sound like a studio.
Right.
And I went, well, that's a win-win. You've said yes. I've said, you know, um, can we do it there? And is it going to be, viable? And then we get to the stage where I'm laying there by myself, Sophie, and I've got the window half cracked in my childhood bed,
Mm-hmm.
and I hear the first bird that I recorded for that song, Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never heard a curlew at that house before in my life.
I wondered if it was a curlew actually, because I thought I haven't heard that bird song in Sydney, which is where I live, but I have heard it in Queensland.
Yeah, it's a Queensland bird, very much a northern bird.
Mm.
And my son's, it's almost like his spirit animal. And I said to Clay, what do you make of this bird? It scared the life out of me, Sophie.
What it's
By
scary on the
myself,
album.
by
Yeah.
myself, laying there, I went, shit, does mum want me to go home or something? What's she telling me here?
All right.
So I cracked the window and put my phone up there and recorded it.
Right.
And I sent it to my boy the next day. And Clay said, Dad, it's one bird. Normally it's one talking to another.
Right.
He said it's one bird that sounds in distress.
Right.
And then the birds on the end, the black cockatoos, I was packing the car. I'd been down there healing for a few days, feeling sorry for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And normally those old birds, the black cockatoos, we find them, they are reincarnated from our elders.
Right.
And if there's three going a certain direction, it means you're going to get 3 days rain.
Right.
Well, this morning that they said goodbye to me, there was like, I reckon, 12 or 13 of these things
Right.
flying around the house. Once again, I ran back with my phone, sat it on the veranda. I don't even know why I recorded them, but then the song Dreams comes along. I think to myself, this is the welcome home, do your healing. This is your goodbye.
Right. And it's interesting listening to Dreams because what you describe in that song sounds like it could be nightmares. You wake up in a cold sweat thinking they're still alive. And I find it so interesting that you did choose to call them dreams, not
Yeah.
nightmares.
Yeah. Well, I had this really vivid dream which started that song, and it was back up in Brisbane, and it was just this really hot day where my mum's house was sitting by itself, and we have these westerlies that come in that are really unforgiving, but it was always meant that it was going to be offshore when you surf, but it was blowing the grass that was unmowed around my mum's house by itself. And then I was inside the house in this dream talking to mum in the kitchen, like it was just yesterday. And we were laughing and just chuckling away. And the next morning I woke up and I still had my mum's number in my mobile phone. I was about to press her number to call her.
Right.
And then I went, I can't.
Yeah.
Because it's a dream.
Yeah.
And that's why the dreams are funny things. It made me feel that it was real.
And certainly the dreams you described are so visceral. And you mentioned surfing, and I actually didn't realize you were a surfer until you mentioned paddling out in one of these songs. I was like, when did that happen?
Yeah, well, as a young fella, I used to surf a lot, and the winter swirl was always my favorite because there was very little people out
Right.
because everyone was too cold.
Mm.
So we loved the winter swell, and it was always full. It was never really sucky like the summer swell. It was always full, a bit more forgiving for a bigger board, and it used to wash my troubles away. So for the first duck dive was always like the world's going away. Whatever dramas you're going through in your life, puts them at bay while you're sitting out the back. It's almost like meditation.
Yeah.
And good and bad. Our bass player in the session walked out and he said, "You don't even need counseling if you listen to that song."
Yeah.
He said it's like a free counseling session.
Yeah.
Because he said you get to the end, it was one of the only songs that really, really broke me at the end when it says, take a look in the mirror at the people we turned out to be.
Yeah.
You don't get any, I think, raw than that because you're admitting that you have to have a good look at your life and you have to understand whether, are you happy?
Yeah.
And
I do think you had a good look at your life and yourself on the world today as well. But obviously with your mother dying, this was a shift into a different stage. And you've mentioned water. And I was listening to the songs and listening to the movement through them and so the elements in them, really. You start off, first track is Between the Fires. We end with Moving On. And there's a line in that where you say there's a hole in your heart the size of the Clarence River. And fire, smoke, water kept turning up through the songs. And so for me, this was this polarity of moods on the album. You move from the fire of grief and anger and resistance through to this sense of a flowing state and to acceptance. And so I was actually wondering also while you're working on it, whether writing or recording, whether that felt like an energetic shift between those two elements.
It's funny. The elements have always been a big part of my life, Sophie. We've always smoked ourselves going on to someone else's country, not feeling quite comfortable. I don't know whether there's something around you that's happened. But you have to actually cleanse the immediate area around you with yourself or the band. That element's always been strong in my life. But then there's the water element, I suppose, I've been really connected with rivers all my life. Growing up in the northern rivers, it's very hard not to be. But the rivers always ran to the sea. And the sea for me, not only being a fisherman, but when you paddle out into the ocean, you're touching base with something that's a mighty force. And if there's one way to earth yourself out, is to go and duck dive under a wave. Yeah. Catch your first wave, feel the energy that the wave gave you. And those elements were so easy to write about because they've just been an integral part of my life.
Right.
I didn't even know, though, that those three elements were things that were going all the way through the record. But the whole was certainly big when I wrote that last song.
Yeah.
And you know how big the Big River country is. It's very, very hard to imagine the size of the mouth of the Clarence River to me. That's what I felt I was carrying with me. And but by the end, I think I'd admitted that this was going to be a healing record and that I was prepared to sit there in Mum's kitchen and do that last song live and do it like I was just showing Mum for the first time.
Yeah.
That's where I used to sit. That's why it sounds so different to the rest of the record. That vocal is live. It's shiny, it's imperfect and a bit flawed. But by that stage of the game, I was ready to admit that I had some flaws, don't you worry.
Well, it is an incredible song. It's the one song that really has a hold of me and won't let me go. I sort of, even though there are other songs that keep calling to me as earworms, that song keeps bringing me back. And I think it's the power of that vocal. It's the lyrics as well, but that sense of, there's a sense of not acceptance in it, but there's just a sense of you not feeling so sad, more just literally moving on. Sadness is in it, but so is a sense of a brighter day, to use a title of an older album of yours.
Well, here's a picture for you. I cleared Mum's house out. I lit the fire. I was down to 2 rooms, got it down to 1, got down to her old wardrobe. And inside her wardrobe, her shoes she used to wear and her going out clothes. And Mum said, I don't ever want you to give those last things away. The only way to properly see me out is to burn them.
Right.
So I went out to the fire, put things on one at a time, and then I got my guitar back out of the car because I was leaving. It was the last thing I had to do.
Right.
But I couldn't stop just there. I got the guitar, went back on the veranda, and wrote that song probably in about 10 minutes.
Right.
And it was, I guess, the most undiluted bit of art that you could possibly write in that short amount of time because of what I'd just done. I could still smell the smoke in my clothes as I was driving off. And it was the first time I didn't cry when I drove away.
Right.
Because I think I'd cried myself out, you know?
Yeah.
But it was a way forward through Mum's wishes that it was like, it's time,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And you talk about writing that song in those 10 minutes on your own. And I was interested to discover that on this album, you wrote 12 out of the 15 songs alone, because you are normally a great collaborator as a songwriter, as a musician, you know, as a live performer. I saw you at Tamworth Town Hall in 2022, and the guest artists just kept coming. And I realized at a certain point, you didn't know who was turning up when. You were just looking for the stage and saying, oh, all right, come on.
So unorganized.
But it was more just that free-flowing sense of this is all music and I'm here to hold the space. But yeah, but just back to you writing solo, was it something that you felt needed to be done, or was it just how it turned out?
It was not even a conscious decision. I think it was really, for me, as the songs fell, I didn't know where they were going to go, Sophie. After Between the Fires, that was the first real song I felt that was going to be a contender. And by the time I'd set the date of doing the record, I maybe had 5 songs that I'd written by myself.
Okay.
But I set the date to give me some inspiration to get off my ass and finish the record.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, if I set the date, I have to be ready.
Right.
And so I did it as a carrot, I guess, to get me motivated, because I'm not really a motivated person. I'm a very easily distracted person. Easy. You want to distract me, you know, there's a guitar or there's some car part or something that I've got to look at trying to fix.
Right.
I'm just terrible. I'd run from one thing to other like a bloody rat. But this thing in particular was not a conscious decision. Getting in touch with Don Walker with both the songs he had a hand in was vital, because I felt like I just didn't have it in me to finish those tunes.
Right.
And with Kevin Bennett, it was different. I sent it to him as an idea, but he came back with very brave lyrics, like that I don't think I had it in me to even come up with them.
Right.
He said, some days are better than others. Some days I miss my mother. He came up with, she made me the man I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, she did. I had no choice. I was her son.
Yeah.
You know, it was her emotion, her spiritual connection to country that molded me, her musical love. Same with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look in the mirror and I saw my father while I was writing this record,
right,
that took me back to that time too, where I went, shit, I look like my dad. And it was just, as you get older, of course you do look like your parents, you know?
Yeah.
But it was his lines saying, talking about every time I speak out loud, I only try to make him proud. He added things that I didn't have the guts to say.
KB certainly knows what he's doing.
I love him. It's not his first rodeo, Sophie.
And nor is it yours, which is why I love this. You're saying I'm so easily distracted. It's like, yes, says the man with 40 golden guitars and however many albums. There's also a paradoxical line in one of on the song Thankful, I think, and I'm looking at it because I made a note, where you sing, I must admit I've never been too good with words. I never know what to say. And I'm going to go back to it again. 40 golden guitars. You wrote 12 of the songs on your own, and yet somehow you think you don't know what to say.
Well, when it comes to a bookend song like that, with congratulations on one side of the bookend and thankful on the other,
yeah,
congratulations was like I was almost admitting defeat, that my relationship was gone. Until I got to the end, and then I realized it wasn't just one person doing the pushing away.
Right.
We pushed each other away. And that can happen at times with grief, things to sort out in your life, And then the other side of the bookend was, when I started this project, Sophie, I had no confidence. I just didn't. I don't know why. I just didn't think I had it in me to make any music that was worth a shit. And I don't know what happened. I think the struggle with Laurel really affected my self-esteem as well, because I came from a mum and dad that were divorced. And I think I felt like I was actually going down the same path, and I felt a bit defeated. And I lost my confidence in my relationship. And that song really that line is a metaphor for that confidence that I lacked.
Right.
In there. I must admit, I've never been too good with words. Probably what I was saying was that I don't even know how to articulate how I feel about this loss. I never know what to say when it's time to crunch the feelings and stuff. I just didn't have anything. I had nothing.
And there was so much loss for you with your mother dying, and not that long after your father. I think that being swallowed up by the maws of grief was a very real prospect. I'm just having a look at the time, and I don't have too much more time with you, so I will talk about your extensive tour that you're going on. And I mentioned that I'd seen you in Tamworth in 2022, and it reminded me, even though I've seen you play live quite a lot, what a brilliant guitarist you are and how much fun you have playing electric in particular. You just look like you're having the time of your life. So I'm imagining this long tour you are going to embark on will give you many opportunities to enjoy guitar.
Sophie, you are very, very well read. I don't know where you've come up with this stuff. Big passion, playing guitar, a big passion to share the electric guitar thing with guests and friends. This new tour is going to involve quite a bit more guitar. I haven't even warned my manager yet, but it's going to be a little bit more of letting go of the person you think you should be, and then actually allowing yourself to enjoy playing guitar more. I've done it at Blues Fest, and I've done it at things like the Town Hall, where you're allowed to express yourself a bit more. But I appreciate you saying that, because I absolutely love to play. I think it's a big part of my expression. And that was the reason I played quite a bit on this record as well, because I felt not only as a songwriter I had things to say, but I also wanted to back them up with the things that I knew I could create to share with people by playing guitar. So thank you.
It's a pleasure as an audience member to watch you have so much fun. Now, my very last question is, Troy, how are the Rabbitohs looking this year?
Well, back in Malta, where my dad comes from, they eat rabbits. And I'm feeling like we may be on the chopping block for a little while, but we breed pretty well. So there's always hope for the next little generation of the bunnies that are coming through. And we've blooded a few really good little players that are coming through, but I'm sort of hoping we can maybe get out of our rut by maybe August.
Right.
But you have to hit the bottom, like this record.
Right.
You have to hit the bottom before you go upwards, right? So all I'm thinking of, I'm trying to remain positive, and I'm trying to give myself some hope to cling on to. But I love them. I was given my first membership badge by my Uncle Jerry when I was like 5. So I'm a life member, and I cannot give up.
And I do love that you brought the metaphor of the Rabbitohs to your album. The album is Between the Fires. It is magnificent. Troy Cassar-Daley, what an absolute honor it is for me to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, Sophie, that was such a pleasure, and I really appreciate your time. I don't know where you come from or that spiritual thing, but you really are on the same wavelength as me. So I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.